What do we know about Ishmael according to the Bible? Ishmael was Abraham's first son, born when Abraham was 86 years old and living near Hebron. In Genesis 15, God promises Abraham during an apparition that he will have a son and become the father of many nations. At that time, Abraham had no children. His wife Sarah was unable to conceive, and they questioned how this promise would be fulfilled. Welcome, dear friends, to another captivating journey through the pages of the Bible on our channel, Bible Stories. Today, we delve into the intriguing narrative of Ishmael, the forgotten son of Abraham. This biblical tale is a tapestry of human struggles, divine promises, and the enduring grace of God. If you find inspiration in the timeless stories of faith, heritage, and redemption, you're in for a treat. Before we unravel the depths of Ishmael's story, make sure to subscribe to our channel, Bible Stories, to stay connected with the profound wisdom and teachings of the Scriptures. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a compelling episode. Now let's embark on this enlightening journey together. In Genesis 16:3, Sarah, who was still called Sarai, suggests to Abraham, who was still called Abram, to have a child with her Egyptian maidservant Hagar, whom she gives to him as a wife. Then Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. Genesis 16:3. This seems to be a common custom of the time, since Jacob's wives also resorted to it. The wife offers a servant to her husband, but all children born from this union are considered hers, which could be an early form of surrogacy. In antiquity, it was common for a barren woman to offer her husband a servant who would bear children in her stead. It was the wife, not the servant, who raised the children. If this solution may have seemed judicious to Abraham and Sarah, it created more problems than it solved. Hagar did indeed have a child with Abraham. When Hagar learned she was pregnant, she began to despise Sarah, and Sarah sought help from Abraham. Genesis 16:4-5 states, "So when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress became despised in her eyes. Then Sarai said to Abram, 'My wrong be upon you. I gave my maid into your embrace, and when she saw that she had conceived, I became despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between you and me.'" Genesis 16:4-5. Abraham allowed Sarah to act as she wished. Sarah then mistreated Hagar, who fled from her. Sarah, being barren, had obtained a son from Hagar, and Ishmael was legally Sarah's child. However, this does not explain how Sarah treated Hagar. A few years later, God established a covenant with Abraham, requiring circumcision of all male members of his household. God commanded Abraham to circumcise his son Ishmael, as well as all other males in his household, including slaves born in his household and those acquired from foreigners. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised, and Ishmael was 13. The birth of Isaac, the legitimate son of Sarah and Abraham, exacerbated the already strained relational tensions between Sarah and Hagar. Indeed, these had begun long before Ishmael's birth, as mentioned previously. It was in the desert that the angel of the Lord met Hagar and ordered her to return to Abraham. It was also there that the angel of the Lord told her the son she was carrying was to be named Ishmael. What does Ishmael mean? It means God has heard. Indeed, the Lord heard Hagar's distress. Genesis chapter 16, verse 11. However, the discord between Sarah and Hagar reached its peak at Isaac's weaning. Deeply upset, Sarah asked Abraham to send away Hagar and her son. Abraham considered Ishmael the son God had promised him. Indeed, even when God revealed that Sarah would bear a son, Abraham questioned the need for this birth, since Ishmael could be his heir. In Genesis 17:18, Abraham says to God, "Oh, that Ishmael might live before you." Even after Isaac's birth, Abraham continued to treat Ishmael kindly, saddened by Sarah's desire to disown him. Sarah, for her part, saw Ishmael as a threat to Isaac's place in the family and wanted to get rid of him. Genesis 21, 1-34. This request to expel the maidservant and her son seemed to contravene all norms of ancient law. The children of maidservants could be demoted, but not dismissed without valid cause. The fact that Abraham resisted such treatment, only acting on God's command, suggests the action undertaken was not in accordance with the standards of the time. One may wonder about Sarah's reaction. Was it because of an act committed by Ishmael that threatened Isaac, or was it simply his existence that posed a threat? Genesis 21:9 tells us, Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, scoffing. Does this mean Ishmael was mocking Isaac or merely playing with him? Does the word scoffing in this context mean mocking, deriding, or simply rejoicing in the situation? Sarah perceives Ishmael as a rival to Isaac, not because of any act he may have committed, but because of his very existence. The author of Genesis recounts the story of Ishmael, mainly to establish a contrast between Isaac and Ishmael, not as individuals, but as representations of God's work. The idea is that when God kept his promises to Abraham, he was not constrained by natural and ordinary laws. In other words, by the flesh. Although God's preference for Isaac as the son of the wife conforms to custom, the rejection of Hagar and Ishmael made the contrast more striking. Hagar was sent away with her son into the wilderness. Genesis chapter 21, verses 10-14:10. Therefore she said to Abraham, "Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, namely, with Isaac." 11. And the matter was very displeasing in Abraham's sight because of his son. 12. But God said to Abraham, "Do not let it be displeasing in your sight because of the lad or because of your bondwoman. Whatever Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice, for in Isaac your seed shall be called." 13. Yet I will also make a nation of the son of the bondwoman because he is your seed. 14. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water, and putting it on her shoulder, he gave it and the boy to Hagar and sent her away. Then she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. They were about to die of thirst when God heard the boy and provided him with water. However, God still had plans for Ishmael. He assured Hagar that Ishmael, as Abraham's son, would become a great nation. Genesis 21:17-18. The fulfillment of this prophecy is reported in Genesis 25:12-18. Ishmael had 12 sons who became powerful leaders and eventually a nation. Here is how it happened. Hagar, who herself was of Egyptian origin, chose an Egyptian wife for her son, and Ishmael settled in the wilderness of Paran. Genesis 21:21. 18, they dwelt from Havilah as far as Shur, which is east of Egypt as you go toward Assyria. Genesis 25:18. He had 12 sons and 1 daughter. The Bible lists Ishmael's sons in Genesis 25:13. 13, and these are the names of the sons of Ishmael, by their names according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebajoth, then Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, 14 Mishma, Duma, Massa, 15 Hadar, Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedemah. Surprisingly, he is credited with 12 sons, just as Jacob had 12 sons. This compares to the 12 sons of Nahor and the 12 sons of Esau. Later, Ishmael's daughter married Esau, Isaac's son, as indicated in Genesis 28:9 and Genesis 36:3. The region of Havilah, where Ishmael's descendants lived, was in the north part of the Arabian Peninsula. Shur was a desert region between Beersheba in the Negev desert and Egypt. Isaiah 67 mentions the descendants of Nebaioth and Kedar as sheep breeders. Ishmael's descendants were called Arabs, which basically means nomads. From the beginning, Ishmael's descendants were a warring people, as they lived in hostility toward all their brothers. Thus was fulfilled God's prediction that Ishmael would be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility toward all his brothers. Genesis 16:12. Later, other peoples settled in the Arabian Peninsula, including descendants of Abraham's sons by Keturah, 1 Chronicles 1:32-33, and some descendants of Esau, namely the Amalekites, Genesis 36:12. Even though Isaac alone remained Abraham's heir, Ishmael and Abraham's other sons by concubines were also blessed by him, as Genesis 25 indicates. This means that Hagar's sons, as well as Keturah's, received material goods from the patriarch. Once grown, the Bible reports no conflicts between Ishmael and Isaac. They are both described as burying Abraham at Machpelah in Genesis 25:9. Most of these names are mentioned in other passages of the Bible as influential tribal families of that time. Ishmael's descendants, Abraham's son, are generally identified as Ishmaelites in the Bible. They were organized into 12 tribes living in movable camps in the southern desert, Genesis 25. Ishmael died at the age of 137, Genesis 25:17. The Bible does not specify where he was buried, but Muslim tradition places his tomb at the Kaaba in Mecca. In the New Testament, Ishmael is mentioned specifically by the Apostle Paul. The apostle used the figure of the slave woman's son in his allegory, contrasting the legalistic religious persecutors with those born according to the Spirit and enjoying freedom in Christ, Galatians 4:21. Ishmael became a relatively common name, so other characters are mentioned in the Bible as Ishmael. There was, for example, a descendant of Saul and Jonathan named Ishmael, as well as a high official under Josaphat's reign and the son of a priest at the time of Ezra, Ezra 10:22. But among all the individuals mentioned, the most well-known was the son of Nethaniah, a member of the royal house of David, Jeremiah 41:1-15. During the period of Babylonian oppression against the Jews, this Ishmael killed Gedaliah, the governor of Judah, appointed by Nebuchadnezzar. In conclusion of our analysis of Ishmael, Abraham's son, we can highlight several important points. Ishmael was not the son of God's promise to Abraham, but God still protected him. It was the Lord himself who chose the name Ishmael and destined him for greatness, even though he was outside the covenant. Ishmael was privileged to have a numerous offspring comparable to Isaac's, and his lineage was structured into 12 tribal clans. God also characterized Ishmael, highlighting the nomadic lifestyle of his descendants and the resistance they would encounter from the children of the covenant. Over time, Ishmael's descendants associated with the Midianites, who were also descendants of Abraham through Keturah. This merging of intricately intertwined peoples and histories led to an assimilation